Morning, everybody. 8:12 a.m., December 15th. Welcome to my channel. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Markets sold off on Friday. Nice little move down. I was able to capitalize on that morning analysis that I did pre-market. Pretty much spot on the money. Um, Now, this overall market was not weak on Friday. If it was, we would have pushed a lot lower. And I'll show you guys that in a little bit in internals. We did hit some key levels and now we bounced. This market is literally just going back and forth. Now the QQQs are relatively weaker. They hit the 50-day moving average and the 20-day simple moving average on Friday. Okay. SPY came very close, very close to the previous week's lows on Friday. In futures, the same, almost there. The Nasdaq did hit the previous week's lows, and basically people took profits there. And now we're bouncing, right? So pretty much everything is positive this morning. Now, is this setting up for a Santa Claus rally? Possibly. Possibly. This week we have a lot on data coming out. A lot. There's some Fed speak today. NFP and unemployment are this week. CPI is this week. And quad witching is on Friday. So it's futures contract rollover week, which is the quad witching week. And why they call it quad witching, because you have index options expiring, you have options on futures expiring, futures contracts expiring, and monthly options expiring in the stocks and equities. That's why it's quad witching. That's why they call it that. Some people say triple witching, but I just gave you the why it's called quad witching. So in my setup this week, I've rolled over in my ES in Nasdaq to the next contract. The volume's about equal right now, and it should overtake the new contract. Should overtake the old contract. So I'd rather just I did all my levels this morning, so I'm all rolled over. Okay, now sometimes, not sometimes, when the rollover happens in futures, sometimes you get a little odd movements in the markets because there's people rolling over. Um, so really have to see how price action is. There's like some wonkiness. This probably is the last week of any decent trading because then we just go into the holidays with Christmas and New Year's. So, and we have a lot of data this week. So that's what's going on. All right. Now, let's get this started. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. All right. That's how I look at the market structure. Also use Anchor VWAPs, market internals, bookmap, and my weekly expected move indicator you can get for free on my Discord. Okay. Now, hopefully, you join me every morning. I give you the market story. Okay, the market news, economic calendar, leaders and laggards, and just the reason, why the market's doing what it's doing, and what possibly can we do. I follow that with a bunch of technical analysis, and I give you the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and the ES futures. I do this every morning. Okay, if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Okay. I'm generally right every day with the narrative, the story. All right. Pretty much nailed all last week what we were going to do. Okay. And the ironic part, not ironic part. So I'm in the eval count for Top Step, and I was short. Um, early on in the session because I thought we would sell off. And like when you're in the eval, you can't make over $1,200 to pass it. I guess they don't want to see you load up on one position. So I had to like cut my winner and I made close to 1100. But that thing would have been, I don't know, a lot more. I mean, if I held that to my targets, that would have been a monster. And I put this in my Discord, but I had a limit order on ES on my personal account. And I was like, I think it was at 69.45. Well, the prices are different now that I'm looking at it. But it was at a level. Bottom line is I had a limit order, and I'm like, all right, I want to get short in my personal account. I'm really confident in this play, and then I didn't get filled. It was literally looked like it was going to hit my order, and I was like, all right, it should hit my order. I'll be filled, and it literally missed it by like a point. I thought about just getting in because my stop was not close to my entry. That was probably I should have did that because I thought I was going to get hit, and then that would have wound up hitting my targets because I didn't have, obviously it's a personal account. I don't have a limit of $1,200 to make. That would have been a monster trade. It's okay. Still capitalized on it. The important part is I just called it. Like that was like I even posted on my Discord right here the video right here. If you go to my live market updates and go to this right here, I literally posted the levels that you needed to look for and what should happen. And then exactly that's what happened. Okay, I posted my trades as well in the right here. So you can see I had to take those off even though I made like close to $1,100. Um, all good. All good, right? Your analysis is right. There's nothing really to be upset about. In the future, I probably would have just got in. That's how confident I was that we're going to move lower. It was just, that's one of the days where you're just like, that was like taking candy from a baby. The analysis. It was like so right there to just dump. And that's what happened. All right, now let's go over to the futures watch list. Silver pushing today. Really pushing. People are really maybe FOMOing in silver. I mean, I'm in silver, and I should have added it when it pulled back lately. Um, I'm definitely underweight in that my portfolio. I mean, obviously I'm making money, but I should be heavier. Uh, the VIX is up almost 3%, even though we just rose. That's probably because of CPI this week in non-farm payrolls. All right, Ethereum's up 1.83, gold's up 1%, Russell's up 0.79, Nasdaq's up 0.54, ES up 0.46, the Dow's up 0.46, 30-year bonds are being bought up 0.27, dollar is slightly down 0.15, crude just can't get out of its own way, down 0.23, 10-year yield is down. 10-year yield is down. That should help mortgage rates. Down 0.5%. Bitcoin just can't get out of its own way. Can't break that 94,000. It's back under 90,000. It's at 89. Bitcoin just can't not. You know, that might have to take a move lower here. Maybe it's going to test that 77, 78,000 area. I don't know. Okay. Max 7 Plus here. You got Tesla up 1.36. Nvidia's up 1.12. AMD's up 0.92. Eli Lilly up 0.68. Netflix up 0.60. There's really no laggard here. The only thing here is Microsoft is pretty much flat. It's not even down. Okay. And this is basically because we took out the prior week's lows and pretty much people took profits. And now what are you going to probably do? We're probably going to go up today. Unless there's some news catalyst. Okay. Shorts are probably out of the market. Okay. Moving on. Top sectors. There's your mining, NEM, up almost 2%. GEV Vernova, it's been a monster, up 1.23. Goldman Sachs up 0.91. And then at the laggards, you do have some laggards here. Disney down 0.63, Oracle down 0.72. Oracle's been just slaughtered. Costco. Costco's down 0.79. Costco's actually not been looking too hot. Uber. They have some lawsuit too against Trump about the tariffs. Uber down 1.77. I don't know why that is yet. Let's look at the granular list here because we got some movers here. Tilray still getting love from Trump's. I think they're going to try to have ease on regulations for marijuana, for cannabis. All right. You have. I always get these two confused. I believe this is Las Vegas Sands. Sometimes I don't know why I get confused with Southwest Airlines. And I don't remember which one that is. Let's see if that. It's probably not going to show me. No. I forget. Like I said, apologize for that. Usually I remember every ticker. Bristol Myers Squibb up 2.52. Dollar General up 2.33. Micron is reporting earnings this week up 2.31. And Oklo, that nuclear, up 2%. All right. Now, laggards. Let's check those out. ServiceNow. ServiceNow is down 5%. ARM, that's a semi, down 3.36. They got downgraded. Texas Instruments is down 3%. Okay. Interesting there. Moving on. Let's go to sectors. Sectors. Who's leading the pack? Semiconductors. Up 1.04%. That means a risk off market. That's why I feel today, if there's nothing else that comes out, I believe we should move higher today. That's just how it works. Okay? I believe we move higher. Followed by discretionary. Financials up 0.49. And there's nothing lagging today. Nothing. Nothing lagging. I believe this to me looks like maybe Santa Claus is coming down here. It just looks that way. Maybe something changes. I don't know. Okay, let's go over to the market, the economic calendar here. Okay. Let's see here. Today, Empire State Manufacturing. This stuff doesn't usually move markets. Okay. Fed Mirren, that's Trump's boy. He's speaking at 9:30, right at the market open. You have NHAB housing market. This doesn't usually move markets either. At 10 a.m. More Fed speak at 10:30 a.m. Okay, and then you can see non-farm payrolls this week, unemployment, PMI. I mean, there's a slew of data. Retail sales, Thursday's CPI, Friday's Michigan's consumer sentiment. Like I said, I believe this is the final week, really, of trading with the contract rollover happening. Like I said, that's what's going on. Okay, moving on to, let's see if Trump's doing stuff today. You get all the Fed speak, and there's some NVIDIA summit, it says tentative at 2 o'clock. I don't know. I don't see Trump here. But NVIDIA summit, tentative. That definitely can move some markets here. Whatever's being said there. Who knows? Let's look at stock news now. So NVIDIA stock rose 1.2. We already know this. A Reuters report last week that said the chip maker is considering increasing production capacity for its powerful H200 AI chips. Micron stock rose 2.1 amid optimism ahead of the tech giant's earnings. iRobot filed for bankruptcy. They're down 70%. ServiceNow stock fell 4.4 after Bloomberg reported that the software company is in advanced negotiations to acquire cybersecurity. There you go. That's why ServiceNow is down. Cannabis stocks, Kronos and Tilray, both gained 3%. The CBS reported that President Donald Trump is expected to sign an executive order to reclassify marijuana as soon as Monday. AT&T stock fell 0.4 after Wolfe Research downgraded its stance. Texas Instruments stock fell 3.1 after Goldman Sachs downgraded it. ARM Holdings, another downgrade. We talked about that, right? Moving on to more news. Exclusive Tesla board made $3 billion via stock awards that dwarf tech's peers. Warren Buffett's successor, Greg Abel has steady rise at Berkshire. SpaceX insider share sale sets 800 billion valuation amid possible IPO. Spain fines Airbnb 75 million for unlicensed rental listings. Let's see here. We'll read this. Stock index futures edge higher steadily after the tech-led sell-off gripped Wall Street late last week as investors geared up for a week packed with economic data that could shape the outlook for interest rates. Tuesday will bring non-farm payroll figures for November and October. Reports on business activity, weekly jobless claims, and inflation later this week will also be pivotal for investors focused on the health of the economy and the Fed's monetary policy trajectory. Additionally, Fed Governor Stephen Miron and New York Fed President John Williams are expected to speak later in the day. There you go, folks. Okay. Let's see here. If there's anything else here that I didn't talk about. Says Scott Bessent will be the next real Fed chair. All right, moving on. Let's look at some upgrades, downgrades today. We just got some of them, right? Let's see if there's any ones we don't know about. Bristol Myers Squibb, upgrade. Oop. Hilton Worldwide, upgrade. Hershey, there it is. LVS is Las Vegas Sands. Okay, got an upgrade. Marriott, upgrade. And there we go. Let's see downgrades. We have ARM, downgraded. We know about that. Norwegian Cruise Lines downgraded. ServiceNow downgraded. Because remember, ServiceNow is just acquiring another company. Texas Instruments downgrade. We already know about that. Okay. All right, we're done here. We are done here. We are now going to look at the internals, which were so key. They were very key for myself on Friday. Remember, that's my bread and butter. It's my bread and butter. Let's look at these together. You can see here, technology was down 2.23% from the open. That is pretty weak, folks. Your market is not really going to move up at all. Remember, it's 35% of the market cap weight in the S&P 500. That market's not going to go up with the tech being that weak. You can see we were pretty much weak from the open, right? We got a little lift up, but then it was too weak, right? Now, what I want to say, look, you can see consumer discretionary is positive. Healthcare positive, right? If you look at these numbers, 1.8 to 1, this is vol D numbers. This is volume going into down stocks versus up stocks, 1.8 to 1 ratio, right? That needs to be 2, 3, 4 to 1 negative in order for this overall market to be weak. See, tech we knew. Nasdaq Exchange almost 2.5 to 1 of volume going into down stocks versus up stocks. That's more of a number you want to see, right? That makes sense because technology, right? However, the NYSE ADD wasn't that bad. S&P 500 ADD was not bad at all. That's pretty much parity. That's why our market didn't have the steam to just all out sell off. And I knew that. So when I look at these numbers, I'm like, all right, I know we're moving lower because of tech, but the overall market is not in line in selling off as well. That will make the selling pretty good, but then it kind of tapers off because you know tech was super weak. All right, if you have the tech like this and the rest of the market's red, oh boy, we're having a large sell-off. All right, but that's the recap there. All right, we can go back to daily charts here. Basically, balance. Basically, this market just keeps not being able to go higher, not being able to go lower. That's the name of the game right now. Okay. Here's our SPY. Okay. Let's look at the charts here. Almost made all-time highs. Didn't. All right, that was Thursday. And look, we opened up here right at the previous week's highs. And then we could not move higher. Then we took out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. That would be called a sweep of all those levels, right? And you took, I'm sorry, you took out, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 days in one day. But we didn't close here. See how we hit prior week's lows? We just didn't close. We closed back up into this balance area. Okay? A more bearish close would be closing down here. It didn't. To me, this signified sellers probably took their profits. Okay? Now, where are we at now? 685.09. We are right pretty much in the middle of Friday. All right? Now, look at futures here. Now, let me change the contract here in futures because I'm going to change it to the current contract, which would be H26. So H26. So we'll get that updated. Okay. And we're going to go change the NASDAQ as well to H26. H26. All right. So this is your futures. So now we got new levels now. So in the futures and the ES, right? You can see we came down to the prior week's lows, not the 50-day, not the 20, and see now we're just getting bought up. So what would I expect today? I would think we go up to here. I would think that's what we do. Okay? You swept these lows. Now you're coming back up. And it's just like I call it gravity was this move down. And this is kind of like we just went to the moon. And the gravity is lessening and lessening, right? And you're going to float up. And it's just because whenever you go from one extreme to the other, you have to think if I was short up here or got short here, I probably took profits. And what happens when they take profits? The sellers turn into buyers and then new buyers come in and then you can force yourself back up. Maybe we break all-time highs and keep going for the Santa Claus rally. All right, let's look at the Qs, which has been relatively weaker. That is definitely a weaker market. We hit the 50-day moving average and the 20-day moving average. Once we hit that, I was like, ooh, you generally, the first time you touch these, don't just rip through them. The first touch, usually just don't go, unless, like I said, there's some news catalyst. But look, see, people are probably going to take profits there, hit the prior week's lows. Then you bounced a little, just a little. But where are we at now? Let's call it 617. We are here. Okay, not at quite the mid, almost the mid, right? So this has a tougher road ahead of it to go up. It really does. You still have that key 629 resistance here. Okay, still have a gap overhead that has not been filled. All right, let's look at futures. You can see in the futures we hit the 50-day moving average, 20-day super moving average, right? And now look, even in the futures overnight, we kind of like was down by the like last week's lows. Now, when I say these are the prior weeks of the week before that, right? So as in futures, we started the week already. That's why when you look at the SPY and the QQQ, they're only based on the prior week, which is not last week, the week before that, okay? So look what we did. Kind of almost a double bottom here. And now we're pushing up. We're testing that 50-day moving average from the backside. Okay. The resistance here that we couldn't break really is your 26115s about. Big time resistance here, here. Okay. If money starts to rotate back into tech, and push this back up, then you can break that and try to go for the all-time highs. Okay, that's what we're looking at. All right, your Nasdaq futures. Now, let's look at that breadth. Let's look at that breadth here. Okay, notice the breadth went down a little bit. We were up all the way at 62% of stocks are over the 50 simple moving average. Now we're back down to 57. Okay, I would think that improves because everything is positive right now, right? But this is based on the close. Okay, this is based on the close. All right, now we're going to look at these hourly charts. Now remember, there's all new levels I have because I rolled over. I rolled over to the next contract. Okay, that's like the March contract. All new levels. All right. I'd rather do that now because the volumes are very similar. Okay. Let's get over to these hourly charts now. The relative volume is going to be squirrely because it's split between two contracts, so I can't really look at that too much. All right. And we're just going to break down what happened. All right. On Friday. And, basically, I have my scenarios up on my Discord. You could check it out and you could see that I nailed it, basically. All right. So what did I say on Friday? Just to recap. Remember I said like on Thursday, right? We had poor structure. We ripped up. We came into a supply zone, right? Now, what did we do? We closed up here, right? But then we opened here, closed back inside this balance range, right? So once we consolidated here, this is the prior month's highs as well, okay? This was like setting up for such a nice short, a really nice short, okay? Because the market kept getting resistance here. And so what I was looking for was once it made these overnight lows, I waited for my premium, right? Because when you're selling, you want to sell at a premium, right? I waited for this test up in here, right? And I said, oh boy. I talked to everybody with the most traded price of the week and of the day were up here, of the prior day. I was like, these are longs. If we get cooking here and take out those overnight lows, woof, because you have poor structure. You're at the top of balance. This is a look above and fail. That always generally works out to the downside. And gravity takes place. Okay? I said your targets, right, would be here. Then these equal lows. And then I said the 68. Now it's different levels. That was like the 68.30s. All right. Now we took out that swing low, right? And we came into this demand zone. This happens to be an anchored VWAP too. Okay. So if we zoom out a little bit, we swept these lows, these equal lows right here. Took out this swing low. Did we take this out? We didn't take this out. Right? Came to almost to the prior week's lows. Right? Now, what did we do again here? What are we doing? Right? Because we got bought. We came all the way up to ultimate balance. Almost hit the month-to-date anchored VWAP. Then we got a nice selling wick. And we started to come back down. Okay, what did we do? We tried to come back down. But what the key is here, you swept those levels, right? Now here, that closed here, but the next hourly candle closed up here. That was probably the tell. Because even though you had selling coming again, right? You had a higher low here. All you need to do is break this. See how we broke that? and then we consolidated again, broke it again. Now we're back over ultimate balance. Ultimate balance spans from around 69.05 to about 69.18. That's your ultimate balance. That's your reversion to the mean. That's the middle of balance, okay? So what are we going to do now? The least path of resistance is back up. Because why? This is all poor structure. You notice how we just came down? Look at that 1 hour candle. Woo! Well, guess what? That's these single prints right here. Market profile is emotional selling. And it generally means, not generally, it means one-way traffic. We didn't consolidate here and drop. We just dropped like a stone. Okay? So what I'm gonna look for is some kind of discount. Some kind of discount, some kind of deal where even if it touches these singles, it might get selling back into ultimate balance or this demand zone where I want to be a buyer. If we kind of hold this, I probably get long around here, stop here or here. And then I would target up here to 66.69s. 69.69s. The equal highs right around here. Last month's highs. A lot of stack supply here. Okay? It's just the path of least resistance. Okay? I would be surprised if we just took out and just broke, unless there was a catalyst. That's not how it works. That's just not how the markets work. Like I said, if I got short here, and you got that move, you can see it right here, right? Profit take. Let's try to roll over again. Profit take, and then boom, boom. Over ultimate balance. As long as you can't find acceptance under this ultimate balance again, and it doesn't matter, you could even bear trap it here by going like this quickly and then doing this, it's all over. We're going to go higher, back up to here. Okay? That's what I'm looking at the ES. All right, let's look at the NASDAQ futures. Remember, all new levels, all new supply and demands. All right, now remember, the NASDAQ futures is relatively weaker. You can see ultimate balance is all the way up here. Okay, the NASDAQ ultimate balance now from 259s is the rolling week's most traded price, around the 25850s right here. Let's call it in the middle, 25880. Look at that right there. Okay, that's telling me that's the most traded price. It's far away from that. Okay, but it wants it. Now, same thing here. You have single prints, emotional selling, right? Look at this resistance up in the NASDAQ, 26125s. Look at that. Prior weekly high and last week's highs. Equal. That is a big magnet, okay? Very big magnet where I think if this market gets rolling, we're eventually probably headed for that. And there's the gap overhead, okay? It just wants it. The market wants it. Trust me. Okay? Now, what did we do? What did we do in your NASDAQ? Okay? Came down, right? And we swept these lows, right? Came into this big demand zone, right? Tested the support of it. Went all the way, right? Market tried to push down again. Never tested that low again. Then you had one more shot here, right? Then you had a higher low. You closed a candle right within this range of this swing low. That was probably all she wrote. Then you consolidate it. You broke that. Now look, you have poor structure ahead of you. Look, it's as we're speaking. It wants at least today the 25880s right here. That equal high right there. The market wants that. Remember what I said. If I'm short here, right? If I'm short here, I got paid. Right now, you're going to take out this kind of swing high. Right now, you just took it out. Now it's got to close, but I mean, like I said, so what do you look for in this, right? I'm going to look for some type of discount. I'm going to look for some type of discount. Even if we go into these single prints, and you could get some selling, and we kind of push back, if we get in here and we hold this, even if we do this and we go like this, that's a long, and you target right there. This is just telling me this is a long, unless otherwise, okay? Remember, market noise. We could open, we could do this, and then we do this, and then the market can go. It doesn't have to be like, whoop. That's what I'm saying, right? So that's your hourly charts. Let's move over to the market profile and volume profile. Remember, folks, all new levels. All new levels. This is your market profile and volume profile now. All right, let's look at this together. Okay. Now, this profile got a little thin here. Distribution, 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 right? Basically still like coming out of a balance area. Okay? Coming out of a balance area. Ultimate balance. Remember, that's kind of like the mean. That's a caramel. Hold on. Okay? There's our ultimate balance. Now look at that. Most trader price ED overnight. Probably around 69.25s. There's longs there. Okay? Month to date anchored view up. Week to date anchored view up. Right here. That all is an ultimate balance in a demand zone. So, I just told you before, sellers are probably gone. All right? So, path of least resistance is up. I'm definitely leaning long today. Definitely. Okay? I would probably put a little box around this. That's your overnight lows. That's your Friday's close. That's your most trader price of Friday down here. Okay. We have Friday's lows, last week's lows, and we still have not filled this gap down here, and we do have this demand zone here. Like I said, we could come down here as long as we make higher lows. We're gonna go probably higher. Okay. We have our single prints. We know that's poor structure here. Okay. Then we have quite a stacked supply here. This you don't want to play around with too much. That should be target. Okay. Then we do have another supply up here. Now I'm going to break this out. Let's do the breakout here. See what the price movement has been doing. And you can see we've been moving up, consolidating, boom. Trend, consolidate. I think the next move is trend back up here. Okay. Let's do scenarios. We're going to talk about my longs. And remember, on Friday, I was all about those shorts. So now that's flipped, right? My bias. Okay. So what I'm hoping for, and I don't know if I'll get it, would be a push up into single prints. I would like a rejection here. Some type of rejection. Okay. Some type of rejection back into ultimate balance, which is also month to date anchor view up, week to date anchor view up. Anywhere in here, I want to go long. And I'm going to target the 69.50s. That's the start of a major supply zone. I do think we probably wind up touching Friday's highs. Okay. I don't know. This is a very, you can see the stacked supply here. This market has to be super bullish in order to rip through that. So I think you're probably going to hit it and pull back and try to work yourself way up to it. Okay. Even if we do one of these, whoop, and we kind of come down here, okay, and let's just say we just take the overnight lows out, and let's say we make a higher low. I think that's the discount, and I think you just move up. Okay. Down here, I don't think I want to play with that down there. Remember, this has to be quick. I don't want to see this market move and start to meander down here. That's going to be a weaker market. Okay. That's what I have for longs. Shorts. Okay. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. A couple things could happen here. We could eventually do this, come up into this thick supply. You want to wait for this supply to get broke. Maybe that's a sweep of liquidity. You wind up closing back inside, make a lower high, right? Now, we go back to the mean. And depending on internals, I would be like cautious here. If we're like moved up there and I'm like, oh wow, the market's not that strong, then we can come back down. Okay? Now, if the past is prologue, we have not been able to maintain any kind of breakouts. So that's what I'm saying. But that could change. But I don't know. Now, I am not very crazy about shorts here. What would we need to do? Well, it would need to pull back underneath this ultimate balance. Take out this demand and start to hold under the ultimate balance. Then, honestly, you could get this move. Like I said, I don't think the smarter plays are shorts. I really don't. Unless the market shows me something else. I don't. I'd rather be long. I'm going to position myself to be long today. Okay? That's your scenarios for the ES. Now let's move over to the NASDAQ here. Okay? Good old NASDAQ here. Okay? And what are we doing now, right? Remember, relatively weak. Let's go and look at it. Okay? You have a nice, very nice confluence low here. Right here. I would put a box here. That's last week's lows. The close of Friday. You have a prior week's lows as well down here. Big demand, right? Thick dots means at least a 6-hour or more demand zone. Very powerful. Okay. The thinner the box, it's a 4-hour and below. 4 hours pretty decent. 3 hours pretty decent as well. But the strong ones, 6, 8, 12, that's why I have them thicker here. Okay. Now, this just can't get challenged. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you a different scenario because of those equal lows here. Okay. We have the most traded price of the overnights right here around 256s. Okay. 256s. You know the longs there. There's longs there. We have our single prints. Emotional selling from Friday. Okay. You can see the balance that was broken, the 25646 is right here. That's kind of where you can see here, right? That's where the overnights are hitting. That's not a surprise. You can see previous low right there. Okay, that's not a surprise. Okay, so we have ultimate balance. We know that would be a reversion to the mean. Big moves happen from ultimate balance. That's what we did, right? So this is a big magnet for the markets. Big magnet. And you do have the supply zone starts right here. You have month to date VWAP, week to date VWAP. I'm sorry, week to date's down here. Month to date VWAP. So see, that's the difference. ES is above the month to date anchor VWAP. Nasdaq is below the month to date anchor VWAP. Okay, it's been relatively weaker. Now, what other levels can we talk about? Well, you have that big supply zone up here with that big time resistance 261s, 25s. I'm telling you right now, if this market starts to push up, that is a magnet. We are going to hit that 261 25s, and I would guess the next time we knock on that door or busting through it, we're going to fill the gap above. That's the level that this market wants. Okay? If people start rotating back into tech, that is definitely the level to look for. That is what we're going to hit. Okay? Now, let's break this out. Now, I'm going to write one more level here. Is your most traded price right here. Your most traded price of the overnight right there. That could be support. Okay? So very similar what I'm going to say here. It's just the structure is different in the NASDAQ. Notice how ultimate balance is above us in the NASDAQ and ultimate balance was below us in the ES. Okay? So, let's get right to scenarios for your NASDAQ. Okay. Start off with the bull side. All right. Now remember, we're right here. You're at the midpoint, 50% retracement on Friday. Single prints above. Same thing in the ES. I would love to just push up, get some resistance here in those singles. See if you can hold this around the 256 most traded price of the overnight. You might need to do this. If you get the higher lows, and then the market starts to catch a bid, right? Tech starts to move strong. You're gonna rip through those single prints. That's supply right there. Okay, that is supply. It's not the strongest. Okay, but I think you're at least gonna go to those 25880s ultimate balance. I think it wants it for right now. I think it wants it. Okay, and now if you get a better discount, kind of push through here, you take out these single prints in the overnight, you have demand zone here. You can see the consolidation, right? Got the close. You can come through here, get some higher low. You're going to ride that long. I would even be interested if we came down quickly, swept these lows, the 25373s, right? You got another demand zone here. Let's say we swept it. Get an hourly close back up here. That is a long. Now, market internals, I would want them to be not so weak, but that definitely could be viable. Okay? Bear side. Now, I guess I could have talked about this before. I think I did, but not in detail like this. So, single prints right here goes both ways. In a very strong market, these provide no resistance. It just will blow right through them. If there's sellers here, this could be a little pullback. So we could drive into here and get some quick selling, right? That could be a nice scalp down to this area. Okay. If you take out the most traded price of the overnight, I believe you will come down and test around the 25535s. It's a week to date anchor VWAP. Okay. This market has to start moving. All right. So this would be the most traded price of Friday, around the 25498s. Take that out, we're probably going to touch that equal low. And depending if we sweep it and we close underneath it, yeah, you could take yourself down to the 252s. Okay. Now, I'm not crazy about this one, but let's say we do make it up here to ultimate balance and we do like this, and then we come back underneath it, retest. You possibly could get something here. I'm not crazy about it, but you could. All right. That's it, folks. That's my analysis for today. All right. Now, smash the like button if you enjoyed that. That would help my channel out. Okay. As always, please join me every morning. I do this every morning. Give you the market story, market news, economic calendar, leaders and the laggards, technical analysis, and I just gave you the long and short trade in the NASDAQ and ES futures. I've been nailing my scenarios for the last probably 3 weeks. And you can just check out my streams in the mornings and see what levels that I'm talking about. I've pretty much been nailing it, and it's not rocket science. It's not. And what I'm trying to change now is the way I'm trading. Okay? Because in trading, you got to always evolution. Evolution? Or grow or constantly change. Okay? Let's just say that. Adapt. Okay? And what I'm noticing, okay, is I keep telling you guys, man, I always narrate these stories and they usually work themselves out. And then I sometimes, well, not last week. Last week I did make money on my narration because I changed. And what did I change? Well, I'm probably done looking at lower time frames and trying to day trade the story with a 5-minute candle. I get it sometimes and I get a big move, right? However, my story doesn't care about a 5-minute candle. It just doesn't. Maybe not even a 30-minute. Okay? I really like to let the hourly candles drive it, what I'm going to do. Maybe go down to a 15-minute, maybe 5-minute to trigger into the trade. But then give myself room. And that's the key. If I feel like the targets that I talk about, we're eventually going to hit, right? We all know in the markets that markets need to work themselves out, and then there's this noise. But they go to a destination eventually. And if I'm putting my risk by my entry, but yet I know the story, if I'm like in my channel, I'm telling you guys, hey guys, we're going to hit that, right? And we've all been there. You have an analysis, and I'm like, great, I just got stopped out by a point or a tick, and then it goes. And then it keeps going. And then it eventually hits where I thought it would go. And everybody knows it. Whoever takes a couple of losses and you're still right, how do you feel? It's a sucky feeling. To be right, but your trades on a small time frame are wrong. So why am I going to put myself in a situation that a 5-minute candle can knock me out, even though my analysis, my story, shouldn't be judged on that 5-minute candle? If I know this story, and I've been telling you, whoever's been listening to me about this, I nail that story a lot. However, I tell you, sometimes I don't have the money to show for the story. I don't have the trade. Sometimes I do. But that story is not on a 5-minute candle. It's just not. It is not. Okay? So that's my difference going forward. Now, don't get me wrong. There's many days where I have setups where I know I can get 5 points, 6 points, 4 points. I will scalp that, where I have edge in that. But other than that, where I'm like zoning in on an area where I'm trying to do a story day trade on a 5-minute candle, it doesn't make sense. Because you got to give room for the market to just do its thing. It's the noise. To get more liquidity. To go for the move that it really wants. Okay? So that's what I'm changing. All right, now, if you want more in-depth coverage, Okay, you're gonna join my Discord, Confluence Trading. All right, go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator, and I mean that. But guess what I'm doing? I'll let myself be my indicator, and then I'm gonna put my trade that is not gonna have a close stop by it, and I want that story to play out. And then I can sit back and be like, okay, my stop's not by this price, but I think it's gonna go this way. And just sit back. I don't have to be like, oh my god, I'm gonna get stopped. Oh man, don't go one more point. I'm not gonna be, depending. I'm not gonna be very, very close my risk to my entry. It happens many times to me. And if I think over the history, there's times where I'm like, oh, I want to pull back. So let's say the market's rip roaring and I want to pull back, and I'm telling my community I want to pull back. I'm all about that pullback. But let's say I'm doing a 3 point stop and it whips my stop out, but still stays around that area that I wanted to get long. And then maybe it goes down 3 more points. But I still say, hey, I want the pullback. And maybe I take another shot and I get stopped. That's 2 full risk losses. But yet then the next move, it rips. And now I'm not in the move. And it goes to exactly what I thought. I don't want to be in that position. Because I know the story. I know what it generally does. And it doesn't mean every trade is going to be a winner, right? It just means that I don't want to just be knocked out and have my analysis be wrong because of a 5 minute candle. It doesn't make sense. I need to take advantage of my edge, right? Anybody who watches me on my Discord will know there's an edge there. If you listen to me and you listen to me, let me narrate the market, you're going to be like, oh boy, he's nailing every little move here. Okay? So come sign up, okay? And you get the free indicator. All right? So everybody, have a great day. Hope everybody has a great day. Remember, today is Monday. We're in the middle of the Nasdaq futures. You're in the middle of Friday's range. Not a great area to be in. Let the market do its thing a little bit. And then, like I said, I'm going to look for that discount. I'm biased long today for right now. All right? I don't know how much that's going to change. Okay? Everybody have a great day. If I don't see you in my Discord, I'll see you tomorrow.